16-year-old Zachary Joseph.
Good evening. My name is Zack Joseph. I'm 16 years old and I'm a cancer survivor. I'd like to share my story with you this evening. When I first realized I might be ill, I was up north in Traverse City with my grandpa in August of 2015. It seemed to come out of nowhere. At first, I just started to have neck pain, and I thought I was just sore from sleeping in a weird way. Then, when I went swimming in the pool, I noticed I could not move my head around underwater at all, and it hurt really bad to even move my head up or down. So when I came up for air, I felt my neck and noticed that there was a huge lump on the side of my neck. I felt the bump and it hurt to even touch it. My grandpa was with me in the pool at the time and I said to him, "Grandpa, come here and feel this." He felt it and then I said, "What do you think it is?" My grandpa replied, "Oh, it's probably just a swollen lymph node. We can take a picture of it and send it to your parents and grandma," who's a nurse by the way, "and see what they think." Then I asked my grandpa if kids can get cancer too. I seemed to know all along what was going to happen next. My parents thought I was just having a reaction or had gotten an infection from the removal of my wisdom teeth because a week before all this stuff started happening, I had just had my wisdom teeth taken out. My grandpa and I came home early from up north and I went to see the oral surgeon who said that the lump on my neck could not have been caused by the removal of my wisdom teeth. My mom called my pediatrician who suggested that we go see an ENT doctor. We were able to get an appointment with him the next day and he seemed very concerned about the lump on my neck, so he did a needle biopsy on it. I was then told to take a stronger antibiotic. In the meantime, I was in a large amount of discomfort and pain. I could not lay down very comfortably and I did not know what was going on and I was really worried. The pain was getting worse and worse and I suspected fever, so we talked to my pediatrician and she said to go to the ER at Beaumont right away. After a couple days in the hospital, the doctors officially knew something was wrong, but there were two ideas on what it was. One thought that I had some type of cancer because the results from the needle biopsy showed spindle cells. The second idea was that I had an unusual oral bacterial infection from getting my wisdom teeth removed. Well, I really didn't think I had cancer, so when the doctors at Beaumont gave me the option of going home and taking another antibiotic for bacterial infections, or staying and getting more tests done, which meant surgery, I chose to go home and see if the antibiotic would make things better. After being on the antibiotic at home for a few days, things started to get much, much worse. I started to have more pain, and I was getting high fevers. My parents and I were feeling really worried, so my mom called my pediatrician and she said that it was probably a good idea to go get some second opinions. She told my mom, if this were my son, I would take him to the ER at Mott in Ann Arbor. So off we went to Mott's Children's Hospital at U of M. Once I was there, I got some more tests done and they performed a tissue biopsy and a spinal fluid test. And the doctor said that the test results showed that I definitely had cancer. The diagnosis was confirmed. Stage 4B Hodgkin's lymphoma. The cancer had spread from my neck and chest to my liver, spleen, and sacrum. They needed to get me started on treatment right away because I was quickly getting worse by the day. I was told that I would need chemotherapy and probably radiation too. The good news was that Hodgkin's lymphoma is very treatable and the survival rate is 90%. So when they did the biopsy, they put a chest port in to deliver the chemotherapy and kept me on antibiotics there at the hospital for a few days, but then I got to go home. I had the option to get chemo at Mott, but it was too much of a drive, and the oncologist at Royal Oak Beaumont had just recently worked at Mott as an oncologist, so we decided to get my chemo at Beaumont. And it was very much easier because it was just a 3-minute drive from our house. We were assured that the treatment protocol for Hodgkin's lymphoma is the same anywhere in the country. I went home and started chemotherapy at Beaumont Hospital in Royal Oak right away because I was very sick and I was in a lot of pain. I was admitted to the hospital and told that I would have the first of 5 rounds of chemo at the hospital and the last 4 rounds outpatient at the Pediatric Oncology Clinic at the Rose Cancer Center. I started chemo in the hospital room at Beaumont. When I was getting my fourth of the 5 IV chemo drugs, I started to feel this intense pain in my chest where my port was located. I felt like someone was burning me with a blowtorch. I sat up and screamed, "It burns, it burns!" My mom had been there the whole time and was like, "What's going on?" And the nurse had just been with us the whole time and had just stepped out of the room for a quick minute. After what seemed like 15 more seconds of screaming, I fell back and passed out and immediately stopped breathing. I was knocked out the whole time and I don't remember what happened next, but my mom told me later that my whole body turned a dark mottled purple color and my lips turned black from the lack of oxygen. My mom had no idea what was going on, so she screamed for help, and about 30 doctors and nurses rushed in with a crash cart to resuscitate me. All these people were trying to figure out what had happened, and it was incredibly scary for my mom. My nurse, Lori Anderson, who actually was the first person who told us about Angels of Hope, quickly figured out that I was having an allergic reaction to the chemo drug she had just started to administer. She immediately disconnected me from the IV bag and flushed my port line a few seconds later, I started breathing again. Everything returned back to normal, but just in case, I spent the night in a pediatric intensive care unit hooked up to oxygen. I was taken back to the regular pediatric unit the next day and continued my cancer treatment. After a week of treatment for round 1 of chemo, I was discharged to go home. I spent 10 days recovering and it was time for round 2. Because of my bad reaction to medication during round 1, I did the second round in the hospital. This time, there were doctors and nurses standing by as I got my first chemo IV. Fortunately, everything went as planned and the second round continued without any issues. I was able to do my 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of chemo at the Pediatric Oncology Hematology Clinic as an outpatient. The chemo itself wasn't too bad, and it's mainly the after effects like nausea and exhaustion that were the most challenging for me. The nurses and staff treated me so well, and everyone at the clinic was great. They were so kind and liked to joke and tease me all the time, which really helped the time go by. And Dr. Brenda Kitchen, who was my oncologist, it turned out that we had a lot in common. We found out that we both have scuba diving in common. One day when I was receiving chemo, she showed me some of her dive videos from her latest scuba trip on her laptop. On November 30th, a little more than 3 months after my diagnosis, I finished my last dose of chemo. Everything was looking really good on my CT scans, and Dr. Kitchen told me that my body had responded so well to the chemo treatment that I wouldn't need radiation after all. We were all so excited and relieved. Then in January, I had an intense pain in my stomach. Was the cancer back? My mom called the on-call oncologist, who told her to bring me straight to the ER at Beaumont. It turned out that I had, of all things, appendicitis. An ultrasound showed that there was no trace of cancer, but I needed to get my appendix out right away. The good news was that I was able to have my port removed in the same procedure, so we killed 2 birds with 1 stone and saved me an additional surgery. My family was very worried about me when they found out that I had cancer, but once they knew I wasn't going to die, they were much more calm. But with my friends, it was a little different. A few of my friends came to visit me at home since I wasn't able to go to school, but once people knew I had cancer, they were a lot more distant. I mainly think this was the case because they didn't know what to say to me while I had cancer. My friends didn't really want to hang out, which made me feel extremely lonely. But once I was done with everything, I got most of my friends back. Everyone was really supportive of me, and I got lots of get well cards and gifts, which made me feel great. And many people were praying for me. I had asked my mom to ask her friends on Facebook to keep me in their prayers. I knew then that so many people cared about me and loved me. I even got like 10 cards from the same person in a period of 2 weeks. My school was very supportive too. The student senate president and secretary, who are actually really good friends of mine, brought over a cookie basket to my house. They asked me to come to a pep rally that was on Friday, and I said I would come even though I was not able to come back to school full time yet. So I went to that pep rally, and over 1,000 students and staff were there. And to my complete surprise, there was an announcement from the student senate president who said, "We would like to welcome back Zack Joseph." I got a standing ovation, which made me feel loved right away. I knew then that so many people at school truly cared about me. The football team and the soccer team both presented me with game balls signed by the whole team. My Aunt Katie set up a daily online meal delivery for my family from September through December. It was really nice for my parents to not have to worry about cooking for my brothers and me. And so many people did so many nice things for us, even people who we barely even knew. If I met someone who was just diagnosed with cancer, this is some advice I would like to give them. Always have hope, and it's important to let anyone help you in any way they can. The work of Angels of Hope is important because this organization helps all kinds of families who have a family member with cancer. All of you here tonight understand the impact this organization has in relieving the stress that comes with dealing with a long-term illness. When we found out about Angels of Hope, we asked Steve York if our mortgage could be paid for 1 month because my parents had to take so much time off work to take care of me. His response astounded my parents. He said, "We'll pay your mortgage for 3 months," which totally made my mom cry. Having cancer has changed my life and way of living. I don't act as selfish as I used to, and I've matured a lot. My perspective on life has changed, and I like helping others a lot more than before, even though I was the one who needed help when I was sick. Remember to tell your family you love them often, and always give a lot of hugs. Life is too short to celebrate each day, and live life to the fullest. Thank you.